And welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the only board game review show that really appreciated William Seward's stock joke whenever he was offered some hot tea. Secretary Seward, would you care for some hot tea? Sue would. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of history, let's talk about a game that's all about history. I am, of course, referring to Back to the Future from IDW Games. Back to the Future, an adventure through time from IDW Games, is a game that allows 2 to 4 players to kind of insert themselves into the Back to the Future films, well, the first 2 films, as they attempt to gain the most victory points through screwing with the timeline. Essentially, there are 3 different eras. There's 1955, 1985, and 2015. There's also a DeLorean that kind of moves back and forth between these times that, of course, you have to manipulate in order to visit those times and deposit the characters that are needed there. Each timeline is going to have a number of cards. In a 3 to 4 player game, you're going to have 3 cards in each timeline that say what characters need to be there. And these are characters from the film. This is Biff, Marty, Doc Brown, Lorraine, George. These characters have to be in certain timelines at their appropriate ages, at the appropriate time when they would be there. Now, what you're going to do is each round you have a first player, and each player is going to go ahead and select a role. Now, there are different roles here, and again, these are some of the characters. You've got the Doc, you've got Marty, you've got George and Lorraine, you've got Biff, and you've got Jennifer. And you pick one of these role cards. And these role cards give you certain advantages, a certain advantage for that round. For instance, Doc lets you move the DeLorean back without any payment cost. Marty means you can play characters without any kind of a cost. Biff allows you to steal cards. Jennifer allows you to play any character card. So those things can be very important during the game. But also, you're going to have actual character cards. You've got a deck of cards that feature 1, sometimes 2 of those characters. But again, these characters exist in certain eras. Some of these characters exist either in 55, in 85, or in 2015. Some of them, a few of them, have an infinity symbol saying they can belong in any of those eras. Now, these cards are also going to contain kind of a flux capacitor divided into 3 spots. And maybe 1 spot will be lit up, maybe all 3 will be lit up. And what that means is if you want to move the DeLorean through the different time lines, in order to move it, you have to spend 3 energy. And 3 energy allows the DeLorean to move from one timeline to the next. But, again, you may be able to play 1 card that has all 3, or you may have to play up to 3 cards that only had 1 or variations thereof in order to move the DeLorean around. They're also going to have little clocks on them. And what that means is if you go to 1955 and you play a card, you play your Biff, and when you play the cards, you play them on your own little clock tower timeline that's got the different years, the different eras on there. And you would play, say, a 1955 Biff down. Well, if he has got 3 clocks on it, that means you have to discard 3 cards that also have, that would add up to 3 clocks on them. So your cards are not just cards you play to put down, they're also kind of your currency, both in terms of the flux capacitor to move the DeLorean, and also in terms of the price you have to pay in order to pay other cards. Here's the rub, though. You can only play cards that you are that character for. So if you want to place Lorraine in 1985, you have to be playing the Lorraine card. The only exception to that is if you pick Jennifer, Jennifer can play any of the other cards, because Jennifer isn't one of the characters that's traveling through time, so she can kind of proxy for any character that you want to lay down there. Now also, too, there's something called a ripple effect. If you're in 1955, there's going to be a 2 ripple effect. If you're in 85, there's a 1 ripple effect. And if you are in 2015, there's no ripple effect. And how that works is, after you've paid the price to move the DeLorean in cards, after you've paid the price to lay down the card and for the timepieces in cards, you also have to discard cards, not into the discard pile, but under your out-of-time token, your ripple token. And what that's going to do is cause a pile of cards to add up there. Now, that's kind of a good thing, because those are going to be victory points later on, but it's more cards you've got to spend now. Now, also, too, wherever the DeLorean ends up on your turn is also going to determine how many character cards you can draw at the end of your turn. If it's in 1955, you can't draw any cards. If it's in 1985, you can draw 1 card. If it's in 2015, you can draw 2 cards. Now, once you have laid down all three of the characters you need in a specific timeline, you can essentially claim that card from that era and take a token that's going to give you victory points. And these are a lot of victory points. Generally, 1955, you're going to score higher victory points, 85, the middle, and 2015, lower victory points. Now, on your turn, if you haven't been able to play a card and you haven't been able to complete an event, then what you do is you go ahead and take a clock tower token. A clock tower token essentially has a fully charged flux capacitor. It also has 2 clocks on it, and it has 1 victory point. So you can spend it to move the DeLorean, you can spend it to lay down a 2 clock card, 2 time card, or you can hang on to it, and at the end of the game, it's worth 1 victory point. So you go around like this every round, selecting a new character card for that round. You're playing cards. You're trying to complete the events, or, take a clock tower token. And once 2 of the event decks are depleted, you finish out that round, and then that is the end of the game. Then you move on to scoring. Of course, you score the tokens you took from completing events. That's going to be your biggest windfall of points in the game. You're also going to score any cards you've got on the clock tower that weren't completed. Any cards you've got out there that you played that you didn't complete are going to have some point values on those. You're going to add those up. Any clock tower tokens you have are going to be worth a point. And then you're going to look under your Ripple token you've got there. You pull out the cards under there. You add up all the victory points on there. Whoever has the most points is the winner of Back to the Future, An Adventure Through Time. So I've got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Back to the Future films, as I'm sure many of you are. I was like 9 years old when the first film came out, and it was just, it was one of the times, my dad didn't take me to see a lot of movies in theaters. I could probably count on one hand the number of movies my dad actually took me to see in a theater, because he wanted to wait till they came out on video. He much would rather watch a movie at home. Consequently, it took me forever to see this. I think some friend's family took me to see it in the theater, and that was super awesome, but it was like, already in the dollar theaters. It was several months after it had been out in release, so I was so bummed I didn't get to see that movie when all my friends did. And I pretty much knew the whole plot by the time I'd seen it, but man, I loved that movie. Second film came out, I loved that too. I remember when the third film came out, I actually got my mom to write a note to get me out of school early that Friday, May 25th, 1990, if I recall, so that an older friend of mine, he came over in his car, he picked me up, we saw that movie together, and loved them all. Loved all those films. They're all a lot of fun. When I heard that this board game was coming out, I was excited, and I was kind of thinking to myself, well, they probably were aiming to bring it out in 2015, and they just got a little behind. They probably kind of didn't time it too well, so it comes out in 2016. Okay, whatever. But I was really looking forward to it. I love the IP. And I love the idea of this game. Now, I got to be honest, I don't think I've really played a time travel game other than Chrononauts, which I kind of enjoyed. I know there's a Back to the Future kind of version of that I never played. I heard that was fun. But I haven't played a lot of time travel games. I know Time Stories has been getting some rave reviews. I haven't played that yet. But Back to the Future, this to me looked like a lot of fun. The artwork looked cool. Just skimming through the rules initially, I'm thinking, okay, this looks like this could be doable. But still, I was also kind of marked when I first kind of unboxed this that it didn't kind of have more of an epic quality that I was hoping to it. I was hoping it to be more of a card game, or more of a board game, and this felt more like a card game. So I was a little disappointed there, but I'm still thinking, okay, this can work. Well, we actually played the game, and it works. It's got some moments. It's got some real tough choices at points, and I've said this 100 times on the show. What makes a good game are tough decisions, and this game has tough decisions, but I want to elaborate further. I think a really good game has to have tough decisions pretty much every turn, or nearly every turn. And where this game kind of breaks down is you've got tough decisions maybe a quarter to a third of the time, and it seemed like the rest of the time you were just taking a token, or maybe moving the DeLorean to 2015 to get more cards. But it seemed like you didn't have the tough decisions as much as you wanted them. Now, this is a fairly short game. It's a 45-minute game. It's not a long game. If this were an hour-and-a-half game, I'd say it was a stinker, leave it alone. Because it's not that long, I think there is some merit here. But at the same time, the game has a lot of little, I guess complexities is the word I'm looking for, nuances. The fact that you can't play cards unless you're that character, and you can only play cards in that right timeline, and then you've got to move the DeLorean to pay for stuff, and then you've got to have the right number of time to pay for it, and then you got to do the ripple effect. There were just so many things saying, "Oh, I can't do that this turn," or I can't make that work this turn. I can't make that work." And so that it was disappointing. You want games that are going to let you do fun things every turn. This game doesn't quite do that. It lets you do fun things here and there, but it's not consistent like that. Consequently, it just didn't feel like it achieved what it was trying to. I remember Harold Ramis, he was talking about filmmaking. He said, there are 3 films. When you make a movie, there are actually 3 films you make. There's the movie you write, the movie you set out to make, and then the final finished film. And I kind of think that's true of board games too. There's the idea of the game, there's the design of the game, the initial design of the game, and then there's actually what you come up with. And I think somewhere probably between the design and the actual what you came up with, I just think maybe there were some compromises or some corners that had to be cut, or I don't know. I just felt like it kind of fell flat somewhere in there. Again, I don't want to completely dismiss this game, because I will tell you, the people I played this with, all of them, I think enjoyed it a little bit more than I did. And so, I was thinking, well, maybe they got something in here out of it that I didn't. But, at the same time, I can't just say, go out and buy this game, because I don't think that's the kind of game I'd want to run out and buy. To be perfectly blunt, I don't really know that I want to play this again. Anyway, this is a long walk for a short drink of water. My recommendation is try it before you buy it. There may be something here from you, but really, literally, play the game before you pick it up. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and I gotta tell you, my absolute favorite character from the Back to the Future trilogy, Mace Windu. He was too. In the Fish Under the Sea dance!
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
That was my favorite game. It sucked because you're sitting there the whole time and you couldn't do anything, and you're screaming these asylum, and I'm just sitting there, guys, we got to keep him in the brick. We got to keep him in the brick.